Namaste. In this video, we're gonna touch base about karmic imprints. What are karmic imprints, and what are the ways these get into our lives? What happens when Kundalini raises, and how can we align ourselves with divine will, which will be the first step of Saranagati. So we'll just do some other videos on this step one only because this is the most important point. Where do I start when I have this particular problem? How do I surrender? That's where we all struggle with. So let's break it into manageable chunks of small pieces of knowledge so that it becomes very easy for us to chew it. So karmic imprints or samskaras or vasanas are all like something would have happened in our past life, okay? And that incident would have given shape, okay? Given shape to a certain resolution above or a way of being for the GV soul, that it becomes an imprint. Okay, that binds that being into a cycle of ignorance and suffering for the upcoming lives, because according to the divine design, you're supposed to complete that particular um, role. Like example is when a director makes an actor play a role in a movie, what if that person forgets that that's a role and also does the same in the real life? He's not supposed to, right? That role was only limited to that cinema. Or take another example, there's a prince, and that prince forgot that he's a prince because when he was young, he was he got lost, and a poor farmer found him and he grew with that farmer. So now when he is like 11, 14 years old, he doesn't remember that he's a prince. He got used to working at the farm and working, helping out his dad in farming and stuff. Now all of a sudden when say the king people come and find him and say, "Oh, prince, you're here," he may think, "What prince? I'm not prince. I'm a farmer's son. What are you saying?" So similarly, we are supposed to leave that part there, but we don't. We cling on to this element of what we have done in the past and bring it to into this life. And then from there, design will is to let go of this past and shine your light being your divine self. But I am clinging to my old self, which is the resolution that I made in my old life, which gets stored in my Sukshma Sarira. Okay? In certain area of my life, I got humiliated. Um I got suppressed, or I been persecuted, or I renunciated certain things, or I think I made a grave mistake. I felt shameful. I felt betrayed. I felt there's a wound that I got hurt but did not have a completion towards healing, or physical wound I'm talking about. Or I made a resolution that if I'm not able to do this much also, I'm not fit. So these all are, it is safe for me to be in such situations. It's unsafe to be so. If I don't have power, I think I will be ruined. We make certain, or I can't trust anybody. This is dangerous to let go of my power or control over certain things, because end of the day, I have to clean the mess. Because when you believe something, someone else will take care and they've messed up to a point that you had to take the bite of that thing, you would have felt, oh, why did I let this happen? Why did I even give this control to this person? Because of this, it all messed out. So all of these decisions that I make knowingly or knowingly in my some life, divine will is supposed to forget. But I create a false identity for myself, which are these vasanas that carry forward in this life, which basically bind me in this suffering, also bind me in the cycle of death and birth. Because till I learn a lesson out of this particular thing I did, if certain vasanas are not to be carried, it has to be just left out, like how a movie hero has to leave that role when the movie is over, and I'm carrying forward, divine want me to not carry. If divine wants me to remember my divine self, which is like the prince time, who I was a prince in the example I told. But I am remembering to my farmer son self, who is poor and lacking in some places. Then divine wants me to learn that lesson that no, I'm not a farmer son, I'm a prince. So, meaning I'm not lacking in any places. So, till the time I learn that lesson, I'll be born in cycle of birth and death, till I really embrace my divine self. So both of the things, the surrendering will enable me to get a light on it. So how these karmic patterns I remember is it gets stored in my these mental impressions, whichever we are talking, which is influenced by my past self actions, thoughts, and desires that I need power, I need to be like this, I need to. So these I need to backed by some sort of fear. Okay, oftentimes it's fear of abandonment, rejection, or judgment, humiliation. Or so even if you look at most powerful people, they're very shallow and they feel so scared of little things that they keep going to all sorts of things for pariharas because they're so gripped by this fear that anything can um, shake them up. So they'll be under always under this guidance of a set of great astrologers and stuff like that. So all of these, I'm not making anyone wrong here. I'm just trying to say, or if that power is not backed by a self-expression of love and light, but backed by a need to prove somebody as, or the fear that if I'm not powerful, somebody is going to ruin me. That's when we do have this fear as an imprint inside. So these imprints, um, or I have to be so, I shouldn't be so, which we often call ourselves as personality, how it comes up is in our subtle bodies, in our Sukshma Sarira. It comes and through that it passes into our layer and etheric. After subtle, there's etheric body, and then we get into how we means mental patterns from their emotional body and then etheric body, and then we are getting into how we think, how we act, how we react with the world, with the self, with the people around me, which you often think it's our personality. And this is our ego driven self. Necessarily, ego driven self is not bad or bad behavior, but it's a self preserving mechanism, a self defense mechanism we have created for our own self without our knowledge, which is based on our karmic imprints. So, if you look at mental health as a paradigm, all of this we think because mental health as such doesn't talk about karmic imprints and energy layers. It starts with the third part, which is our thought pattern, subconscious conditioning. So once our karmic imprints come into our subtle bodies, it manifests these kind of thoughts and patterns in us without our knowledge that resonates with our past self, that we don't differentiate. In our past life, we think we don't need money. In this life, we have resistance towards taking money. So, from the time we are grown up, also, all our life experiences, our thought patterns, our beliefs are all shaped into the experiences, whatever it happens. I take it in a form that no, money looks like bad, money is bad. So, that way, what happens is I start having believing this form that money is bad. But when it traces back the root, perhaps in some life, I would have renunciated money because of my state or whatever. Maybe um, I'm a monstery head. So I don't need money at that time because I would have renunciated money for being, because I've been provided enough. I'm already being taken care. I forget in that life that I've been a person who's being taken care by my Bhakti Sishyas or the trust time or my kingdom or my king or any of those, that I don't really need to have it as my personal bank balance to take care of myself. I forgot that. What is that I remembered? That money is back. So in this life, I have trouble asking for fair pay, asking for um, whatever is my worth of money, or even if I feel so guilt taking money because I feel I shouldn't be doing it. So this is how it manifests. So now my journey of surrender starts with understanding that no, that's different, this different. So what are some things which comes up in this egocentric self is like I must control this, I deserve better than entitlement. Perhaps I've been a king or a prince. In this life, I'm not be a king or a prince, but I feel this sense of entitlement that I need everything to be best. So even though I'm born in a very mediocre family or a middle class family, I have this inclination to buy things that are beyond my affordability. So I always go negative budget and buy things and then catch my head that how do I repay it. So I'll be working on paycheck to paycheck and giving reasons that I think it can be me, my family, my children, God, whatever. But end of the day, I'll be overspending on things beyond my budget when it comes to because I have a sense of entitlement that only these things are to be my level. So status, I'm behind my status symbols, or I buy things to show my affluence. I give large parties, even though I don't need it, I show it. Or I buy a lot of jewelry, even though it's in banks, I wanted to show because I have it. So, or if I'm between siblings, I think I need more. So I want a better pie. I want a more beautiful one. I want a better. So I'm always looking for my more status. Or some things like I can't trust anyone. I know this is very thing. So if at all I had this kind of betrayal from some past life or trauma that is stored in my memory because of that, I can't trust anybody. Why am I feeling I must control this? I have to micromanage people. I have to look into every aspect of life. I need to keep it as close to me as possible. Or I need to always assert my power in front of these people because in some places, because I didn't do so, I might have lost certain things. It can be people, it can be love, it can be kingdom, it can be my position in some form. So I always have this uh, attitude that I need to uh, blow my trumpets. So I always look at it, or I'm always clingy if it is in matters of love, or I'm always micromanaging every move of my spouse because I'm scared that somebody will, if I don't stop it now, it can get into that person may go away from me because in some life I would have tasted infidelity. So now, even though my spouse is very loyal, I always um, have a thought that whether this person is loyal to me or not, or if some life I because of a betrayal or me not being in control of a certain situation, I faced a lot of damage. Then I don't trust anybody, even though other person is doing their things. I want to get involved and look at every minute aspect from the lens of where it will go wrong. Okay, it's always ego preservation is I should not face that humiliation again. So I'm checking. So perfection bug comes off. So that way, no, how many versions I do, I'm not good. So and now all of these samskaras are there already. They're part of my life, but I don't realize they are the ego driven. Okay, I can go on, but like I think you got the sense, or I'm the doer. I am the person who did this. So that pride. So it's fine when I have pride about doing things, but that comes with the cost of showing other person that you're nobody or nothing. Where did this come? That maybe that soul has got so much suppressed that that person has this inherent need to say, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. So all the time that person is looking at validation as a means to live life. If somebody validates his work or her work, she feels good or he feels good, or else it's not. So there's a lot of this is how the ego driven self works. Okay, or if somebody I'm in one life I've been a prostitute or some roles which shouldn't be respectful in the societal norms, I carry that sense of shame. And if money would have come because of that, I still feel that to take money I'm feeling shame. Okay, asking my fair pay, I feel shame. If I have been a prostitute and I feel I shouldn't be doing this, but with my majuri because of my situation, I had to do it. here, if anybody looks at me, I'll feel my being like cringing. I can't do it. Or if I had sense of lack of love in that life, I feel that for love I can do anything. So my actions will be like daring, even if it is I'm doing skinship. It's fine if somebody loves me, somebody look at me. So my being is so insecure that I'm going into those measures to get love from people. So all of these are ego driven actions, but it's so difficult for me to recognize unless until it I get a spotlight on it, I get aware of it. And it's getting aware is the whole essence of our life, if you ask me, because it has become like autopilot, default operating system of a software. Like if you say, if you open a MacBook, the default operating system runs on its own without its knowledge. Now, it doesn't know it's running on which OS, but it knows that it's a Mac OS. Similarly, we know that this is me, but I don't know whether that me is something which is egocentric me or divine me. That's the whole journey I'm talking, my friend. How do we break this? Just by putting a light on it. What kind of light? A spotlight. How? By growing awareness. Okay. One is self inquiry. How do I do my self inquiry? Through meditation. So, meditation, again, you have multiple forms of meditation. Um, Dhyana yoga, we call it. So, in your dhyanam, you do um, either you can do it through breath as a contemplation thing. Breath work you call, you continuously do cycle of breath, breath, breath in 5 7 5 7 5 7 5 7, like in a cycle. So that way, or you do mantra japa. All of these are mindful meditation. Um, any of these meditative techniques are only here for us to help us reduce that mental chatter, continuously that noise in my head, which is always saying, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. It says, do this, don't do this, coming from my subconscious conditioning, coming from my karmic imprints, which is guiding me for my self preservation, which may not be necessarily true. But I get so tuned to my hearing my noise in my head that autopilot I do things which my mind says. So that's where when I had to tame my mind, I need to tame my thoughts, tame my mental patterns, tame my vasanas while it surfaces. So whatever are that emotions that come up in my meditation, be it anger, sadness, all of those or a trigger. When something happens, I get triggered. Again, it then stored vasana, a karmic imprint. When somebody is so selfish, I get triggered. Why? Because I might be selfish and I decided I shouldn't be selfish anymore. So God intentionally put some person in my life who's so selfish. So now the key for me to get away from this or lesson learned is accepting that the other person is a divine being and me, I am divine being, and be completely okay with that person being selfish while I'm not getting affected by the other person being selfish. Same with anger. Because I violated somebody's life and space, today I'm stern follower of rules. And if somebody don't follow rules, I might get triggered. So now my journey is that life, yes, it is life. I'm not in that place to correct somebody's mistake. So let me correct my mistakes and be on the path to righteousness and let lead the rest to divine. I don't need to be the voice of justice if I'm not a justice person or I'm not working in army, police, or any of this. I don't have to be a, a, a person who is always finding faults for the better good of them. Okay, finding faults is their own problem. I need to learn my faults. If I can showcase light on whatever are those egocentric thoughts I am carrying, it's more than enough. Than doing some good by others unless asked, it's better to look into my own life. These all things require a kind of awareness that only the meditation can provide. Okay. So when these thoughts come, just see, oh, okay, from where this is coming from, which self, which being is this. So that aware, once getting aware to that emotion and let it pass, just like a cloud passes. Like when we hold it, it gets attached. So we just a cloud passes. So a mental thought patches. I'm not reacting to that anger. I'm not reacting to that jealousy. I'm not reacting to that egocentric thought. I'm just knowing, getting aware of this and allowing it to pass. So this is how I first get aware of my thoughts that might not be aligned with the divine self. Okay. So first, if I get aware about these are my egocentric thoughts, now I know the reverse, which is divine centric thoughts. So when where I should, I'm always triggered with anger, I should start being peaceful. Where I always get the emotional trigger acts beautiful way for us to understand because the general nature of anger during those sentences or the shame or jealous or these emotions are very like bodies, our body is our best temple, that's why it teaches a lot. So when an emotion raises the intensity, we know when our body gets the temperature changes or the sensations. So once we get aware, the intensity can talk about the heaviness or the bodily changes that is happening because of certain trigger of emotion, right? That can give us a insight. Oh, maybe this looks from a karmic imprint. Otherwise, same thing, another person may take it very lightly, not even care. But for you, it's a big deal. Not that it is any adharma or anything. It might be dharmic. For other person also, it's dharmic. For you, it is adharmic because you had a past with that particular scenario. So you react badly to it. So that is a sign for you that, yeah, maybe looks like there is some work to be done here. And typically, it will be in areas where you might be struggling with, or you don't have a good relation with that particular space, in that particular space, or with that particular person. Okay, that would give you an insight on, okay, maybe this is some samskara or some karmic imprint I might get aware. And based on that, when I do the reverse, that is following divine will and avoiding not something which is divine will. Because only to way to break the cycle is to follow divine will. And that is with surrendering and then aligning my see, subtle body again. So this karmic imprints, when I reverse it, it again stores in the karmic imprint of my subtle body, again go into the divine self, into the heavens, get it noted into my repository of my Akashic guides or Chitragupta records or wherever we say that this karma is learned, done, dusted, and then work on the next Sanchita karma patterns than working on the same. So how we pick, we again store it, give it back, and then get back the new ones. So that's one cycle done. The next way we can get, if I'm not a thorough meditator, is to reading scriptures, Puranas, stories. Because in some places I know, oh, how did this person behave like this? Oh, I'm not the person who behaved like this. Oh, I can't do like this. When we say, okay, when I'm reading, oh, we should do this, but we should not work towards the fruits of the result. I work hard. I have the right to work and work, put a lot of effort, but not to expect the same kind of result. Oh, how do I act like this? I only work for reward, right? How can I act without a reward? That's your first, okay, that opening. Ah, I got it. Maybe this is the one which needs more focus. I may. So when I'm more reading Gajendra Moksha, oh, how this is how, oh, I also behave like this only, in the area where I'm struggling. Oh, okay, perhaps I'm working, not to confuse myself with growth mindset, but maybe it is not aligned with divine plan. That's the reason, just like how that crocodile, that Gajendra is suffering, I am also suffering in my life. Perhaps if I also surrender to divine, maybe how the crocodile lives like that, my problem also may get solved. That that resonance will come, thought resonance, story resonance with my life. When I'm reading Devi Bhagavatam, at one place I feel, oh, she is protecting. So I feel maybe Goddess Ma will protect me also. I'm feeling so vulnerable now. Nobody is there to protect my life. I don't know what will happen to my life. Is there something which will happen? Basically, if I'm going through a major like exam or some divorce or some, I'm working for a goal and it's not happening, exam or whatever. So there are some uncertainty things, and only thing I know is I'm working hard, but I don't know what will happen. But I had to have this faith that she will protect. So then I can think, just like how that person, she saved the Aksuras, maybe she'll also save me. Correct? No, I will bestow upon her. I'll start my prayer. I will surrender to her. That thought will come. Then I start my thing. Or I'm already in the spiritual path, like I'm reading my Durga Saptasati. At this point, you already are into it, like doing everyday sadhana of Rudram, Namakam, Chamakam. So you're reading, but not knowing the stories or not knowing the meaning of the stotras. And what happens, unless when you're understanding the stotras, that effect gets more amplified because you relate with that duality of goddess and things that she can do for you, which will help you to lean on her or build that unshakable trust that she's gonna guide you, protect you, or I can lean on her for solving my problems. The moment I am keeping my defenses down and surrendering, maybe praying, okay, I'm not surrendering at that point, but at least if I'm praying without my knowledge, what happens is when my Kundalini is rising, my Rudra Grandhi, Vishnu Grandhi, Brahma Grandhi, all these Grandhis gets cheded, meaning uh, cut, like pass through. And when that happens, automatically that area, it is purifying. Okay, the energy that I get out of recitation, that Kundalini is awakening, we call, but what is happening at the background is it is purifying those energy channels from these karmic imprints and the effects of it. So it's either allowing, while it is cleansing, what it touch bases on those karmic imprints, and because of that, what happens is, whatever, say there is a energy channel and it is closed with this particular uh, imprint, imagine, which is not revealed. But when Kundalini is working and raising on that place, it makes that particular vasana to come forefront. Because of that, what happens when you're reciting this Durga Sapsati or doing Namukam, Rudram, Chamakam, all these kind of heavy prayers, or Sundarakanda, Vishnu Sahasranama, um, or Bhagavad Gita Parayana, these time consuming parayanas we are doing, what happens is these start coming forefront and it makes our mood. So suddenly we'll start feeling low. Suddenly we'll start feeling like crying, or there'll be like mood switches, some aches and pains. We don't know why, but we are having. Or some people who are very spiritual can also have some visions of their karmic experiences or whatever that is making them feel, or some unexplainable why, I don't know, but I have this heaviness in my heart or at the back. We if people talk to me, they ask like, why is this happening? So all of these are signs of Kundalini awakening. We tell it shortly, but what is happening at the back is this karmic imprint is coming surface, and because of mass generosity or the Lord's generosity, they are cleansing it for us so that the Kundalini is able to rise without you experiencing that ego identity. So automatically, when that 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 removal of that image is happening by reciting this, automatically you feel the emotional trigger has come down, or the same situation earlier you used to respond in one way, now you are responding in another way. The same thing you're holding earlier, now you're able to release it or not put so much importance to those things. Earlier you used to be like controlling, now you are okay to let go. Or somebody, it's difficult for me to forgive. No, I know I can forgive somebody because there's a reason. Some rationality sits in, and that's how you'll be able to. So it's more like a purification of yourself, okay? And that when the Kundalini is rising, it is burning away all that ego conditioning or false identity. And that way, what happens is either through Purana scriptures, recitation, understanding the stories and relating with them, along with some stotras and either Puranas or stotras, when you're relating with them, automatically that egocentricness comes. Oh, okay, these are some places I think. And self-inquiry, and somebody is praising you. Okay, who is that self who is feeling happy now? Who is that self who is sad? Is it me or who? So that can why what is the trigger? What could be the trigger? Just go down, 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 like Ramana Maharshi spoke. So that thought, if you can go down, 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 finally you will get to that pure self, which is driven by God, God being. That way you will embrace your princess self or come out of your actor role into your real divine role, what divine has set you in this life, and once for all burn these karmas and get away from this cycle of death and birth. So to get there, either read scriptures or understand the meaning of stotras. That's your step one. Or do meditation. Any form of meditation is fine. Mantra japa, mindful meditation, breath as an anchor, light as an anchor, everything just the same. Or any mantra, like any other, not may not be a Hindu mantra. Any mantra works the same way. Repetition is the key and focus is the key. Any focused based meditation, mindful meditations work the same. Not the relaxation meditation or creative visualizations as such, because there at least you'll have this mental chatter of the mental. Um, there is a uh, not focus. Okay, that you will feel drifted for a moment. You are drifted to something else when you're doing a relaxation visualization, which will give you some positive vibes. But to get your ego centric thoughts out, focus based meditations, mindful meditations work the best according to me. And from there, now you follow the 6 steps where I need to understand, okay, this is my past life karma. Now I wanted to direct my thing towards what divine wants me to. So I will take new set of actions, which like earlier I used to be anger. Now I'm gonna love. I'm gonna give them space. Or if I'm dominant, I'm gonna let others also live the way they want. If I am doubting, I'm gonna trust. Even though there's some mistakes, I embrace it, but not doubt their others' ability. From somebody who is power driven, I'm moving slowly towards dharmically driven actions so that it is backed by love but not fear. If I am feeling like I am the doer, I move towards divine is the one who is making me do these actions, not me all the time. So slowly you're moving from one self to other, and while you're transcending, you are not allowing. Say you're moving from ego based to um, dharmic, virtuous actions. You're also not reacting to your old patterns. That's your step two, which is your pratikula varjanam. So, anukulyasya sankalpam is understanding this is my karmic imprint and moving out of that imprint. Pratikulasya varjanam is breaking the chain of that reaction, which are earlier I used to do like this. No, I'm not gonna do. So I'm breaking that chain. Then rakshasya viswasam is I'm not getting controlled by that old pattern, because I know Divine Mother is there to help me not repeat that pattern again. So when earlier I was betrayed, now I will know my mother will allow me not to get betrayed. So I'm not gonna be scared anymore. Then Goptrutva Swikaram is accepting from the role of I am the one who is taking this action. I have to protect, I have to be careful. I to divine will. If this is bound to happen, it will happen. If that's the only way karma gets cleansed, fine, I will take it. She's gonna support me even in that journey. I just have to be like a porous, let it pass through me. Mother is there anyways to hold me, so it's okay. I'll take the heat. Then Karpanyam is like I know when I'm going through all this, I can't get through all this without mother's support. So I'm gonna let go of this me. I am the one who has to, and I know without her support I can't. All the all the support success is because of her. All the failure is because I did not follow the divine grace. All the hardships is because I did not follow divine grace. So allow me to follow the divine grace. Allow me to do my sadhana daily. Allow me to do the connection with you every day. Allow me to trust me more. Allow me to follow you more. That should be our request and please. Instead of give me this, give me this, give me. Once the karma goes away, anyways it will come to you. So even asking for Aishwaryam, you just say, please release the karma which is not allowing me, or show me the light which is stopping me to have light, or money, or whatever that's. And then finally say, I am releasing, I'm totally taking this karmic imprint and release, putting you at your feet. Do whatever you want to do. I know if it is it is time is there to release it, you will release it. If it is time is not come, there is some more lesson. Please teach me the lesson. So that is Atma Nikshepam. So you are putting yourself. You're not saying today only do. I prayed for you, Durga Sapsati, 22 times. Today only you have to give me that siddhi. Today only you have to give me this power to release this. Today only you have to release me from this karmic chain. The time comes, it will happen. Trust the divine timing. Just be waiting. Till then, you keep doing your sadhana. There are uncertainties in this life, in this journey. Embrace that uncertainty and say that when the time is right, things will happen. I don't have to force myself, because divine order is something does not follow our timelines. They have a different time on their own. So that will happen when it has to happen. So that is the way you need to realign your life, so that your first stage, you can get to the state of Saranagati in that process. So I hope I have given you enough insights on the step one. What happens? How do you get to know that this is my divine path when I'm going through a struggle in my life? So what should be our um, everyday request is, please help me understand what is blocking my whatever that problem is, whatever is the karmic imprint that is showing up as this problem in my life. What is it? Show me a light, show me a way, show me a scripture, a mantra, a person, whoever, a guru, to help me get present to wherever this problem is coming from, and help me work through it. Let me be a witness to that instead of reacting to it. Then you can say at night before you going to bed, you can say, Amma, thank you for whatever I think as success. Thank you for whatever I think as accomplishments. You made me do this. Thank you so much. Whatever mistakes I've done, whatever I think I've failed, I think there's still divine grace that is required. Please allow me to have divine grace. That way, I'm completely surrendering myself to divine will, right? So let's work on other scenarios, each of it, and see how we can um, walk through this path of sadhana in few use cases. That way, you will be clear of this concept. If you like this content, please do like, subscribe, share it with people in your life, so that we enable people to live a happy life, so that they become a happy being. Thank you.